Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Say Gay podcast. My name is Toby Cuffle, if y'all already don't know. And we have another special guest on today, you guys. I'm very excited. You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Bree.
Yes. And the Bree is my stepdad, you guys. So last week's episode, I had my mom on, and so this is her husband. So I'm excited to have you on, and we're going to kind of switch gears for this podcast a little bit. I want this podcast to be about like inclusivity of like everybody and not just like the gay community. So we're going to talk a lot about like Black History Month and like the Black community and a lot of stuff like that. So this episode will be a little bit different than like I guess our normal like gay content. And we're also going to talk a little bit of ally stuff as well. So don't worry, we're going to get to that too. But I think by the time this episode is posted, it's not going to be February anymore, but I don't think that's any excuse to not talk about it and whatnot. So we're still going to chat a lot about like Black community and kind of Black History Month and all that stuff. So, first things first, we always like to start out this with pronouns. What are your pronouns?
I am a him.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I kind of want to, let's just jump right in, I kind of want to talk for like your past and your history of like, what was it like growing up? Because you grew up in the 70s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think you can have like a different perspective on like a lot of different things. So why don't you kind of jump into like, what was it like growing up for you? And, how was life different back then versus like now?
Okay, well, first of all, I should say, just in case you guys don't know, I am Black. So it is my month. And yeah, that's all I want to say about that. Anyway, so growing up, obviously, like you said, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I was born in the late 60s. So it was still, back in that time, kind of rough. I grew up in South Central LA. So it's a very rough neighborhood, but I had a very great family. My mom passed when I was like 10 years old, so I had to live with my grandmother, my older brother, a younger sister, and a younger brother. Wait, what was the question again?
What was it like growing up? Like, what was life like growing up, and how was it different for you?
It was different in the fact that I grew up it was just blacks and Hispanics, mm-hmm. So I really didn't have a lot of dealing with white families. Too much. We did have some, so it was pretty good. It was a little racially tense, if you got outside of South Central LA, and definitely really bad if you, like to mingle with other nationalities. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't, I grew up in a drug infested area. In a gang infested area, so you had to kind of pick and choose what you were going to do if you're going to try to join a gang to survive or try to go, the opposite direction. My family wanted to go the opposite direction, for me, obviously. So they gave me good values. As a child, I really didn't see color. I didn't see negativity until probably high school. Mm-hmm. And once I got to high school, then that's when it was harder to try to, stay away from that side of the negativity. So I did that for a little while. Was a bad boy for a little while and did a little gang banging for a little while. But, I got over that pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. And yeah, I definitely think like there is, obviously, like, my life growing up was not at all the same for you. And, like, having, you guys, we have a live audience in here, so my mom's exiting the room. So if you hear background noise. Oh, okay, we're just opening the door. But, yeah. So what do you think, like, how do you feel like life is, like, now compared to, like, back then? Do you feel like there's still a lot of, like, I feel like we all kind of know there is still a lot of racism in the world, and even within like the gay community, there's a lot of homophobia, and then in like the Black community, there's a lot of racism towards like a lot of different things, and people are always going to be shitty on social media and shitty in real life. Like, I think every community is going to deal with those things for a long time. Like, I think we've progressed to a better place, but I still think there's a lot to deal with. So what do you feel like? Do you feel like it's gotten better? Do you feel like it's gotten worse? Do you feel like you have to deal with anything that's been bad?
Well, I think at some point it felt like it was getting better. I think ever since the pandemic, the George Floyd incident. It seemed like it has gotten even worse than it was even, in the 70s and 80s for me. People are more open with their racism. They don't hide it as well as they used to, I'm thinking. As far as towards me, I don't really get a whole lot of that. You get a lot of looks, especially being in a small town. They're immediately assume that I'm not from here. The first question out of their mouth is, "Where are you from?" Like, how can I not? Why can I not be from Rice Lake?
Right.
Or from a town close? And that's because it's very few black people around here. But I get treated pretty well, I think, for the most part. I have a couple of incidents, and I just shake it off and tell them that they're ignorant, or in my mind they're ignorant still. But small town life is very different than city life.
Right.
I like it a lot. I think I like it a lot more because this place over here where we're at now is getting a little crazy with what's happening around.
Right.
This little town, but I like it. I have some good friends. Obviously, most of the guys I work with, all the guys I work with are white. I'm the only black guy around. Usually, that's the way it's been at every job I've been at here, and they all accept me and treat me like their own. We do a lot of jokes and playing around, but for the most part, I think it's genuine. So I like it. I like it here. I like the people here for the most part.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I definitely think, even for me, that was actually one of my questions, was like talking about living in a small town. So I'm glad that you already talked about that. Like, for me, living in a small town, being gay was like, I wouldn't say it was like hard, but it was like hard enough being like different. And so I think for you as well, like you kind of experience a lot of that as well. And like the whole like George Floyd incident is like such a shit thing that happened. But I think, like you said, it made people feel like in a weird way more comfortable with like being racist, and a lot of like government topics. Like, I don't like talk about a lot of government things, but there was a lot of things happening in the government that like made people just feel like they could be openly like racist, and that's just absolutely fucked up. And like same thing with homophobia and transphobia, like all that stuff. Like, why are we giving those people a platform to be openly hateful? Like, that's so fucked up. And we lived about like what I think the George Floyd incident happened about 2 hours from where we live, and I think I was living in Minnesota when that all happened. And like one of the scariest times of like living in Minnesota was when that all happened. And like I think since then there's been a lot more like awareness to like cops doing a shit job when it comes to anybody really, but like especially like the black community. Like there's just so much shit happening that shouldn't be happening, and it's just so fucked up. And hopefully there's a lot of awareness that can be brought around all of that to live in a better world, like in a way like that racism can just not be a fucking thing, because it doesn't matter. Like I think like the same thing that I talked about the episode with my mom, like talking about like what does me being gay have to do with you whatsoever, and what does you being black have to do with anything?
Well,
like,
and that's what I tell a lot of people. A lot of the guys that I work with are I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it, Republicans. And their views on, or their opinions on either race or being homosexual is all negative, and I was just telling one of the guys the other day, that we're talking about we have a trans person that comes in, and he just got surgery done, and they were talking so much mess about it, and the first thing out of my mouth is, what does that have to do with you? Why do you even care? Let that person live their life the way they want to live it. But everybody thinks that they can say what they're thinking. Their opinion matters on somebody else's life, and it doesn't.
Right.
And I'm thankful now, and God, poor George Floyd and what happened to him and his family, but his situation made the world aware of how black people get treated by cops. And so now you can see it on the news all the time now that they are really watching cops. And I don't even know why they think they can still get away with it. They got body cams, they got all this footage. Everybody has cell phones, but they're still doing it. It just happened the other day.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot more, like you said, like it's a very big tragic thing that happened, and it's very, very, very sad, but it did open up eyes to a lot of things in the world, and it spread a lot of awareness, even though like there was so much shit going on when it all happened, but I think it spread a lot of awareness that this world kind of needed in a way. And
for sure,
like it's like we said, like I'm hoping that we're just progressing towards a better place in the world in general. Next thing I kind of want to talk about is, how can someone be like supportive of like the Black community or bring awareness to the Black community in a way? Do you have any like advice or tips on that?
Well, as far as bringing awareness to it, I think, the awareness is there already. Everyone knows the situation, especially in areas that has heavy poverty. But I just think people should not be so quick to judge, they shouldn't be so quick to judge, just because a person is, different than you are, you should give them the benefit of the doubt. Crazy story. I can just picture, growing up and walking down the street. Let's say if I was in, downtown LA or Hollywood or something like that. You have black guys walking down the street, and you can actually literally see the white people crossing the street before you get there to avoid walking past you because they're afraid, and you don't have to be.
Right.
And they should be that same way with anyone that's, gay, black, Mexican, whatever. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, there's like that weird stigma of like being afraid. Like, what are you afraid of? Like, it just doesn't really make any sense. And so I definitely think like it's easy to be the same way it's easy to be supportive of like gay people in the gay community. It's just as easy to be supportive of the Black community. Like the way they're living their life is not affecting you in any way whatsoever. And that's in every community. So, and your opinion, you expressing your opinion isn't going to change anything. Like, it's just stupid, especially like people expressing their opinion, like to me being gay about their homophobia. Like, what do you think you're gaining from that? Like, you think you're going to change me back to straight? It's not how it works. The same way that if they're going to express any racism towards you, you can't just change your life. Like, it's just not how it works. So I just don't understand people like expressing their opinions on it, like, and just be a good person. Like, it's not that hard. Like we've discussed before on the podcast, it's not that hard to be a good supportive person.
Or how about just going up to the person and talking to them and asking them if you have a question about, where they live, or, how's life. When the George Floyd incident, I hate to keep bringing that up, but my wife and I have a friend that works, she's a librarian. And as soon as all that stuff happened, she's white. She left this town in Barron and came all the way to Cumberland where I worked just to make sure I was okay. Because she wanted to make sure that I was getting treated right. She saw what was happening, just to people who are different color, darker. And she wanted to make sure I was okay. So, even if you hit a Black community and then you can talk about how, God, that looks run down over there. Or look at that person over there is poor or, homeless or whatever. Why don't you stop and see, can you do something for that person? Maybe they just need a sandwich or something,
right?
Some shelter or some heat or anything, I think that's the problem with this world is, people are so quick to judge instead of help. We're all humans. We're human beings. We're people. We bleed the same color.
Right. Yeah, it's just like, don't be so quick to judge and just be quicker to treat people like they're humans. Like, I've noticed that living in Austin, like, obviously, like, there's a lot of, like, homeless people everywhere. And it's like, people don't even treat those people like they're humans. Like, they treat them like absolute trash. And it's like, even just talking to them, like, sometimes they just want to have a conversation because nobody talks to them all day. It's like, if you don't have anything to give them, just talk to them. Be like, hey, how are you? Or whatever. Like, if they're trying to talk to you, just treat them like they're normal. Like, it's not it's not that hard. Okay, so I think that's kind of all I got for, like, Black community. You want to add anything else before we switch over to some ally talk?
Nope. I think that's it. Just realize that we're all humans. We're all trying to survive in this world. We're all trying to make it in this life, and with this inflation and everything else that's going on, just treat each other like humans. Be kind to one another. And if you do have something negative to say, keep it to your fucking self.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Not
That's
everything
it.
has to be spoke out loud.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. All right, so I kind of want to talk a little bit more about like ally talk, some of the gay community stuff. And so my first question I want to know is like, what was the gay community like for you growing up in the 70s? Like, was it like hidden? Was it like very different?
Well, for black people in the 70s, I won't say 80s, it started getting a little bit better, but in the 70s, as I approach tween, you notice that it was very hidden, really shunned upon, even by black people themselves. As a group, it was a very, very negative thing. So people, they always hid it. Thank God I had a family that wasn't like that, because we had a couple people who were gay in our family, and they didn't, treat them any different. So I got to learn, because it is taught. Just like racism is taught, hatred is taught, or bigotry is taught.
Right.
I always loved gay people ever since I was a kid, because I thought they were more fun. Especially black gays.
Yes.
A black gay guy is so flamboyant and out there in the 70s. If they were securing themselves.
Yeah.
They were so much fun,
Mm-hmm.
And especially the 80s, as I got older and can go out to clubs or whatever like that, loved the dance party, but it was rough for them in the late 70s and the 80s. They had to hide it a lot, deny it a lot. I knew a lot of guys once I got in my early 20s in the military who had wives and kids and finally were able to come out. And, but that was a life. They had to get married. They had to have a girlfriend. They had, have that lifestyle, supposedly the American lifestyle. It has to be hetero.
Right.
But it's gotten better, I think, as far as people being more open and able to come out. But there's still people who hide it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people still like hiding it, and that's 100% okay. Like I've talked about that before. Like if you are hiding because like you're afraid to come out or you don't really have anybody to talk to, like you don't have to come out just because it's like the norm of nowadays. Like if you feel like you need to wait and do it on your time, that's the best piece of advice that I can give you, is always do it on your time. Because I mean, I did it on my time. Like I took my time to tell whoever I needed to tell, and now I just live my life however the fuck I want. And I don't even the last time I came out, like I don't tell people anymore that I'm gay, because I'm very obviously gay. I would assume people would know. So, but yeah, like definitely doing everything on your time and whatnot, and just living your best life. And like you said, like the American like image, like the American dream or whatever has changed so much lately, like of what it's going to look like for the future and whatnot. So don't ever think that there's like a stigma of how you have to live your life and whatnot. Okay, so my next question is, what was it like coming into this family? Like, I mean, we're all white, obviously, and then also, like, coming into the family where I'm very open with my sexuality. I think I was dating Gage already by the time that you had come into our family. So, what was that like coming into it?
Scary. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, it was fine. It was just normal to me. It didn't bother me one bit. Like I said, your mom and I were friends, and we worked together at that time when you met Gage, so I knew about you. And we had been friends for like 6 or 7 months before I met you. So, once we got together, a few months later, it was no big deal to me. I had heard so much about you and about Gage that, it was great. You guys accepted me right away, and, I was looking so forward to coming into the family because your mom had talked you guys up so much, and how crazy and wild you guys were. So, I never saw you being gay. I never saw you guys being white. So it was fun, interesting. I never had any issues. The only time I have any issues now is when we're out together. Sometimes, every now and then, you still get the stares, and but as soon as I do that, I just pull her closer and stare the person back down. So Yeah, I loved coming into the family. I was looking forward to. Nah, maybe I'll just save that for another time. Save that for another time.
Yeah, I definitely think, like, I mean, it wasn't any, like, weird tension or anything, like, between, like, I mean, this was my first time having, like, a step parent. Like, I know my brother and sister, my older brother and sister both had a step parent. And so I never really experienced it, but I wasn't, like, nervous or anything. And so I think, like, definitely, like, if you're, like a step parent or, like, a parent going into another family, like, just welcome everybody with open arms. Like, especially if there's, like, somebody in the community that's, like, involved, like, in the gay community or whatnot, like, just welcome them with open arms and just treat them like they're normal. Because I think that's the number one thing I got from you was you never treated me like I was different. Like, I've never felt like I was, like, super different. Like, I know I'm different, obviously, but, like, I never felt like you treated me any different.
Are you different? Really?
Just a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I mean, but, yeah, I never felt like you ever treated me like I was, like, the gay kid. Like, it was just, like, a normal relationship. And so, and even now, like, I feel like this is going to be very controversial for me to say if any of my family is this, but, like, I feel like I'm closer to you than most of my family. Like, I talk to you more than I talk to even my own dad and whatnot. And it's, like, having that relationship has always helped me. And, like, even with Gage, like, Gage didn't talk about it on the podcast, but, like, he doesn't know his dad. And I think that you've kind of stepped into that role for him of being, like, a father figure to him. And, like, we always talk about that all the time of, like, having that extra father figure, and it's always helped us and whatnot. And
well, it was easy for me coming into the family. You guys, you, Gay and Sam, all of you feel like you're my kids, and that was pretty much since day one,
right?
And we've all lived together for quite some time, and then separated, and we all got back together.
Yep.
So it just feels great. I never really had that, family lifestyle for myself until I got with this family, and this, I love it. You guys are like me. You guys are my kids. It's the way I feel, and we talk about it all the time. Everything we have, we're leaving to you. You can have my colorful socks and my elliptical, and all that's going to the kids. So,
oh God, can't wait.
Our big wealth and fortune is all yours.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love our little, like, family here now. Like, we always talk about, like, I mean, we talked about it on the episode with my mom, like, talking about our family is, if people seeing our family, like, from an outside perspective would be like, you guys are fucking weird, because, like, we're very close.
Not only that, we're fucked up because we got a gay person, a black person, a white person, and then you don't know what Gage is. He's gay and black Italian half, so we don't fucking know. He can't tell what he is.
Right, and now we got a poly relationship with family,
now
too.
We're poly, so it's awesome.
We're very, like, just all over family, and we're also, like, very close, and so, like, I think a lot of people think that's weird, but, like, I would not change it for anything, because not having you guys in my life, like, it would be very, very weird, even though we live across the world from each other and might only get to see each other, like, 1 or 2 times a year, but, like, we make it work and whatnot, and it's a great family dynamic that we have going on, and I'm forever grateful for it, and hope that
absolutely.
I always say, I'm like, my mom is that person at Pride Parade that would be like free mom hugs, like, she's always a mom to people who might not have that mother figure, and I feel like you're the same way as, like, a father figure to somebody who might not have that, like Gage not having that father figure, you're like that for him. So I definitely think that's such a good, like I said, good family dynamic that we have going on.
Absolutely.
Okay, so my next question for you is, what does it mean to you to be an ally in the community?
Well, I think as far as my position being an ally, I think I do it from a distance. And what I mean by that is, I think, excuse me, I think I love the fact that, I was taught to speak your mind when it's appropriate. Mm-hmm. And so the way I'm an ally, besides, being super supportive of you and Gage and Nick, is that random person that I don't know who obviously is gay, getting backlash from somebody else and, telling them to knock the shit off or, mind your fucking business, or why you have to be like that. Let that person be them. And then when they come up, especially at my job, I'm super supportive, and I show that in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think more people should be like that. Stick up for them, you know.
Right.
Tell other people, shut the hell up, just mind your business, you know, because you never know what that person's struggle is, even though they may appear to you to be gay or they actually are gay and they're happy and proud to show it. You still don't have to be an asshole about it,
Right.
you know. The other way we're supportive is we can't wait to get to Pride Fest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll hit that Pride Week down there with you guys. We hate that we missed the one in Minnesota last summer.
Yeah,
I think it was last
Minnesota
summer.
does their parade every. I think they do theirs in June.
Yeah,
I think.
last June we missed it, but we're gonna try our damnedest to get down there to Austin. But yeah,
It's definitely gonna be fun. That's what we've been talking about since I've been home, you guys in Wisconsin. Is when are we going to Pride all together? Because Austin Pride is so much fun. So
I know.
we're definitely gonna be showing out at the Pride parades. What's my next question? So I guess you kind of talked about this a little bit, but like, how if someone were to ask you, like, you know, how can I be like a better ally? How can I be a better support system to like my child? Like, I guess what advice would you give them of how they can be supportive?
First of all, just listen. You know, be accepting. You have to be accepting. And even if you're not good with it right away, don't shove that in their face that I'm not happy that this, you know, you shouldn't be this way or whatever. You know, stop and just listen to them and, you know, be accepting. And even if you're not good with it, do your research. Read up about it, or you know, get counseling, or you know, that's your child for one. And you should love them no matter what. You know,
their sexuality doesn't change.
it doesn't change them at all. Yeah, exactly. You know, they're still your blood. You know, if you have a hard time with it, then there's something wrong with you. You know, especially if you're a parent or a family member. You know, like you said, it doesn't change them. It's the same person.
Yeah, just being like that listening ear for your child or a friend or whatever can help them more than like most people know, because like you said, you don't ever know what somebody's like going through just walking day to day. Like there could be one little incident that just sends them over the edge into something. And so just being that listening ear for a friend, family, whatever it might be, like can help them in more ways than anything. And I think that's what I've experienced with you guys. It's like just being a listening ear for me in a way, and just, you know, I tell you guys everything. I can talk to you guys about anything. And so I think that's something that as an ally you can do that and just be supportive by listening.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, I said this on the podcast with my mom. I was like, you don't have to be the rainbow everything. I have rainbow all over my house. I have a pride parade in my lawn. Like, you don't have to do all that just to be like an ally. You don't need to be the number one ally in the entire world. Like, obviously we love to see it. I love to see a good old pride parade, a pride flag in somebody's yard. Like it obviously shows that you're welcoming. But if you're just being the listening ear for somebody and not saying homophobic things and not thinking those things, like you're automatically going to be a better ally than somebody who's a shit person. So yeah. So
and you can start small.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, even if it's hard for you to deal with, just have that little flag to show that you support them. You know, get that armband, you know, the rainbow armband or something. You know, just little tiny things, and you know, I'm sure eventually you will come to understand that that's just the same child that you had growing up, or brother, or even a parent. You never know. You know, like I said, people hide it for the longest, and they have kids, and then they wind up being gay. So,
right,
you know.
Yeah, 100% agree. So kind of rounding it out here, my last question that I like to ask everybody before they leave the podcast is, what advice do you want to leave everybody with, whether it be an ally standpoint, a, you know, Black community standpoint, if it's just a life advice, anything?
Well, I think it's all the same. You know, an ally, being a person of color, life. Treat people how you want to be treated. You know, be accepting, be loving, be forgiving. You know, I think we lost that somewhere in this mid 2000s. You know, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
you know?
it's one of those, that's like one piece of advice that I think I always try to live by, is treat people how you want to be treated. Because even, I mean, in my high school days, I was treated like shit because people were like, you're gay, and I was like, no, I'm not. Now I am. But like, just treating people the same way that you want to be treated is like a phenomenal piece of advice right there.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly. I love it. Well, I want to say thank you for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate that.
This is so much fun. And, you know, later on, I definitely feel like we'll have you guys on. Maybe we'll do like a little trio podcast episode where I'll just talk about, or maybe we'll have the whole family on. We'll just do a big family podcast.
That would be good.
We'll have a lot of motherfucking microphones for that, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, I want to say thank you, and you guys, you know, just be supportive of everybody in your life. And I think that's the number one thing that we got from this episode is just being supportive and not being a piece of shit human. Just be nice and treat people good.
Live, love, laugh.
Period. So yeah, I love you guys as always. You can always find the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And of course, we're on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So go follow along at the Say Gay Podcast. Write reviews, share it with your friends, you guys. The podcast is completely shared word of mouth. So the more you guys share, the more people will benefit from these podcasts. So definitely go share, go write a review. And yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys. Thank you again for being on.
Thank you for having me.
And we will talk to you guys next time. Bye.